Yeah, what up? It's Billy Niz with the Square Off Fighting Street Media. What's going on, everybody? Um, we're gonna do a Whitey Bulger video. The real shit. I'm from that fucking neighborhood. No one can tell me shit. Okay? I'm gonna tell you what the fuck really happened and why. Okay? I'm not gonna give you everything right now. There's gonna be different parts, alright? First of all, I'm going to tell you about the Mullins gang. The Mullins gang ran Southie. They were on the street corner I grew up on, 0 and 3rd, in between 0 and 3rd and 0 and 2nd, where they filmed Good Will Hunting, the Little League game, and shit like that. I had some family members in the Mullins gang. Grandfather, cousins, uncles, you know. The reason why the Mullins gang ran Southie, the ports are right there, right around the corner from where we live. So if you run the ports, the longshoremen, you run Southie, pretty much the city. That's why South Boston ran Boston and practically the state. Okay. Whitey Bulges in Alcatraz getting his MK Ultra on, whether you believe it or not. Getting his daily dose of fucking LSD. Lord knows what else went on in Alcatraz while he was in there. But he came back to the projects where I was walking through, where I showed you in my last videos where he was born. My house is a block away. And our blocks are just a little bit smaller than New York City. New York City got big ass blocks. Southie, the city of Boston, they ain't as long, you know? So, anyways, he comes back a different man. Man on a mission. He wants back in. He wants to make money. And, you know, starts hustling, doing his thing. Bookmaking, that's loan sharking. He puts a crew together. And, basically, I want to say from the 60s, the 50s, 60s, 70s, the big war popped off between the Mullins gang and Whitey's crew, okay? The Mullins gang was wiping the motherfucking street with Whitey's crew, whacking motherfuckers all left and right. You know? And Whitey pretty much lost that war. But being the strategic thinker he was. Oh, and by the way, no one ever called Whitey Bulger Whitey to his face. They called him Jimmy by his real name. They called him Jimmy. So, you know, the 70s comes around. Kevin Weeks is young, bouncing. He boxed a little. My uncle slapped the dog shit out of him. That's Whitey's number 2 guy. My uncle Laurie Lee, God bless the dead, slapped the motherfucking dog shit out of Kevin Weeks. And that is a fact. Right in front of Whitey Bulger. My uncle was part of a crew who he was the muscle. No one fucked with him, and they made money. Simple as that. Whitey never wanted anybody in his crew that like did angel dust and shit like that, because, or you even got high like that, because he always said you can't control them. So he never wanted anybody in his crew that he couldn't control. You know what I mean? So the guy was very street savvy, you know. So as he's losing the war, he fucking runs to Howie Winter in Somerville, Winter Hill, for help, because Howie Winter had a rapport with the Mullins gang, because he was doing his thing in Somerville or whatever, but whatever. Anyways, he came to Southie, where the Mullins Club was, in between 03rd and 02nd, where I grew up. That was my block, my hood, you know. My best friend, his father is best friends with Pat Nee, who was one of the leaders of the Mullins gang. I see Pat around from time to time. I was at a wake with him. My best friend's father died, and that was his best friend. He actually helped pay for everything. Rest in peace, Louis Lentini, Donna Lentini, Michael Lentini. Shout out to Paulie, buddy. You know what time it is, brother. So he goes to him for help. He wanted a truce. Whitey wanted a truce. Things were getting out of control for him. You know what I mean? People dying, you know, getting whacked. My mother was a waitress at this bar called Streetlights. And she came out to give a man a beer. And right in front of her face, someone blew his brains out, whacked him out. Right at the motherfucking, took him off. As Hassan Campbell says, turned his TV off. Rocked his motherfucking snot box. But I say he fucking whacked his ass. Right in front of my mother. My mother was questioned left and right. My mother's a G. Told him I didn't see the man. I didn't see his face. And that was that. There was speculation on who did it or whatever, but no one really knows. Know what I'm saying? Anyways, dudes were getting killed left and right. My grandfather was driving a couple of guys to home that was shit-faced. And right where they filmed Good Will Hunting, right? Where they were watching the Little League game on top of the bleachers. There's a set of stairs that goes down to the lower level of the park. It's a big staircase. He 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 was on the ground when a machine gun, and my grandfather's driving straight towards there with them, with the boys. And well, Whitey fucking lets that bitch, he twerked that hole right on my grandfather's car. Thankfully, no one got hurt. My grandfather was like, "Brrr." He was off that bitch. My house was right there. My grandfather's house. because I lived with my grandfather. So I'm going to tell some stories about my grandfather too. I think you guys would like it. Uh, Came from the gutter, alcoholic, to becoming a longshoreman. He did his thing in the street, had money in the street. Flew to Harris Casino in Atlantic City at will. Went to Foxwoods at will. Foxwoods would send him big diamond fucking pinky rings, rope gold chains for Christmas and everything. He was a whale. And a whale means in the casino you got paid, you got big money, you know. So um, they escaped the machine gun fire. You know, time passes. You know, things are slowing down. I see all the bigger kids were going down on the me, my mother, and my grandfather. My mother and my grandfather were watching the firefighters play their softball game, where my Uncle Bobby, uh, my grandfather's nephew, his sister Dottie's son, Bobby, uh, Mullen, you know, the Mullins gang, firefighter, great man. Used to hit that softball so fucking far. It's unbelievable. But anyways, Whitey and them were there too. I have my little skateboard. I'm 3 years old, or 3 or 4. I'm like, I'm next, motherfucker. So I'm like, Mama, Papa, look at me, bitch. I go down that bitch. I get the wind knocked out of me. And I'm crying. You know, I'm a baby. A man comes over to me. My mother comes running up with my grandfather. And the man says, no, don't touch him, don't touch him. Just in case he got broken ribs. Finally, I come back. I just got the wind knocked out of me. And the man starts like, he took a liking to me, had me on his lap, gave me money, was playing with me, was holding me, you know. My grandfather was right there, and he was strapped up too. It was Whitey Bulger. Yeah, yeah. That was James Whitey Bulger who did that. My mother was getting calls all week. Little Billy's Whitey's boy now, huh? Little Billy's Whitey's boy now. It was funny. My mother, she's awesome. Years ago, when she was a young girl, she used to traffic mescaline from Canada to the United States. She used to date an Italian mobster. Don't know the man's name. Don't give a fuck. She was on the news. My mother caught a shotgun charge. My mother was a gangster. They called her Ma Baca. If you don't know who Ma Baca was, Google her. She's the one. She was the mother of the Baca brothers. They robbed banks. Don't with like Dillinger and them. She would always hide people out and shit. That was my mother. My cousin Bobby sold cocaine for Whitey Bulger. He was one of the 52 when Whitey fled the city. He was one of the 52 who got grabbed. There was 52 coke dealers, heavy coke dealers in Southeast Charlestown, all over Charlestown. They got picked up, amongst other things, bank robbery, armored truck robberies. You know, that's what That's what they grew up on, robbing trucks. What do you think? Why do you think the Mullins took over that territory? Every truck has to pass our house. I would come home and my room would be filled with fucking Fila sneakers in the early 90s. And Filas were fucking hot back in the day, believe it or not. Shit like that happened all the time. It was nothing to, you know. I used to go to boxing fights with my grandfather. I seen Roy Jones Jr. for the first time, Vinny Pazienza, James Toney, Pernell Whitaker, Marvin when I was old enough to like boxing and shit. Damn, man. I loved the Tasmanian Devil and Roy Jones Jr. I think Roy Jones Jr. in his prime and Floyd Mayweather in his prime, Roy would tap that ass. Fact. Anyways. Whitey fucking wanted the truce. So after that, John Conley was an up and coming Fed ambitious. That he was born in the same project too that I lived in, then moved down the street from a block away. He was born there too. And people think like this was Whitey's idea and everything. But John approached Whitey, an alliance to take over the city. John Conley had gangster ambitions that no one knew about. You know what I'm saying? And as a little bit of what Whitey said, get the fuck out of here. You know, at first. And around this time, Whitey was having problems with the Italians and shit. And not for nothing, right? People call him a snitch and all this shit. Those people don't know what he's talking about. And the wise, I'm not afraid to say this, the wise guys, Pat Nee did his time. But the Italians were talking to agents. In New York, they fucking talk to agents. What the fuck is so different about Whitey? They all have an agent they have on their side. But the difference between Whitey and John, they grew up in the same neighborhood, the same project. It was Salty guys. You guys don't understand what it means to be a Salty dude. Growing up, they're born and raised 39 years. I have friends from when I was fucking 3 years old. Still. That's how tight-knit our community was. People trying to paint us as racist, this and that. No. Forced busing was frowned upon. You took white kids out of the comforts of their own neighborhood, and you took black kids out of the comforts of their own neighborhood and switched them.